Hey guys, how you doing? I hope you're all doing excellent. So, as you saw last time, we got the RX-7 fired up for the first time, which was great, but we're having a little trouble getting it to idle right and sorting out a few other problems. One of the problems we found was that there's oil coming out of the turbine. So let me show you that real quick. Ooh, see that right down there? That does not look nice. So we went on Borg website and we found some common issues why that might happen. So two of them we're going to knock out and make sure we get it taken care of before we keep cranking this engine and forcing oil through. So the first one is if the oil return line is clogged or kinked. Second one is if the crankcase pressure is too high. We don't have a crankcase, but our rotaries do still have blow-by. So what we're going to do is going to get the oil return line sorted out because I think it is a little kinked, and we're going to install an oil catch can so that we can relieve some of that pressure from the blow-by and hopefully stop this oil from coming out of the front of the turbo. I'm going to try and show you. I move this right down in here. Oh yeah, you can see it. That's the heat protector around the oil return line, and even it is kinked in. So I'm fairly sure that that line is kinked. Easy fix. We're going to come right around here. I'm going to undo that line, and then we're going to cut this tube and shorten it and bring it so that that curve is a little less extreme so that the return is correct. Okay, so got that shortened up, and now, unfortunately, with the camera, I can't even show you, but if you remember, down here was where the kink was, and now it's a smooth slope, and there is no more kink. Oh, there you go. You can see that's not kinked anymore. So, on to the next thing. So the next step is to install an oil catch can, because your car is going to have a stock blow-by valve or something like that. Usually it's called your PCV valve and positive crankcase ventilation, something like that. But what it does is when the compression pushes past your piston rings, or in our case our side seals and oil seals, pushes that mix in there, sometimes some fuel gets in there, it needs to go somewhere. Usually it's vented back into your intake, so it sucks back through and tries to get reburnt again. We don't have that equipment anymore, and so what we're going to use is an oil catch can. Now this catch can is a simple unit that I got off of Amazon. I'll leave the link in the description below. It's a great little unit. It actually has on the top a little dipstick so you can kind of check where you're at, and then the whole bottom unscrews so that you can empty it out. Now I'm going to unscrew this and show you what is in a catch can. It's not very complicated. So this just has little holes in it, and what that does is it lets things go through but not go back up because of the distance between the bottom. And you can get expensive ones with more baffles. You can get cheaper ones with less than this. You can even make one out of just a can if you need to. And then it has an in and an out, and they're labeled. And on the out, you can have it go back to your normal PCV valve system into the intake, but it'll help separate all that gunk out so that you don't have to suck it back into your intake, clog it up, especially for direct injection cars. You have the fuel directly injected into the cylinder, so you don't have it washing over your valves to clean them off. So keeping that stuff out of your intake is great. So we're going to find a good location for this, and we're just going to vent it to atmosphere. So I'm going to put a little filter breather on here, and I'll show you where we're going to mount it and how we're going to plumb it. So the place you want to choose, you want to make sure it's a place where you can easily pull off the bottom portion, and it's about the size of an oil filter, so keep that in mind. Now, in the FC's engine bay here, what we found is there's a nice open spot where we can use the stock bracket that's on here and mount it right here next to the fan shroud. What I've done here is I've already tapped these holes. They're a little bit too small. This is an M6 by 1.0. You've heard me talk about them if you watch the other videos. Every engine bolt hole in this engine bay is the M6 1.0 pretty much. So what I've done is I've just tapped it. It's perfect size to run a tap through there, so that, and it also helps hold the bolt if you need to take it off and on. And we're going to thread it in and mount it right up here. Okay, so here we have the top portion mounted, and we're just going to go ahead and screw the bottom portion back on. And it has a nice amount of clearance, so it'll be easy to take off and on in the future. Okay, just hand tight, because we're going to be pulling that off and on. And again, we have easy access to our dipstick, so that should be good there. Now let's decide how we're going to plumb it into the oil system. So for this car, the most common place that people tap into to mount an oil catch can is on the oil filler neck here. There's this output tube that was going to the stock PCV valve, so it seems like a great location, and that's what we're going to use. To plumb it, I'm going to use some leftover fuel line, which is -6 fuel line. It's perfect length to reach all the way over. So slide this on here and slide this other end on the in portion of the oil catch can. Now the kit that I got, which is linked below, comes with two little hose clamps as well, and it also comes with some lengths of tubing, different sizes, and it has different inlet sizes for the oil catch can, so that you can adapt it to your specific application. So easy thing to do if you're working on a different car is look up where's your PCV valve and follow that line. Okay, so here we have it. We have the line run right along here into the oil catch can, and I left a lot of extra length. I have an idea how I'm going to route this, and it's going to be a solution for this throttle cable as well, and that'll be upcoming in another video pretty soon here. But for right now, we're going to see if the changes we made have cleaned this all up with the oil, and we're going to give it some cranks, see if it stopped the oil from coming out of the front of the turbo, and maybe if we're lucky the engine will start. But she hasn't been very cooperative today. We're still working some kinks out. Anyway, let's give it a shot. So what's great is that the engine started, which is fun because we had to change what?
Spark plugs.
Yeah, they were dead. So had to do that, rotary life. But we're still getting the oil coming out of here. So hopefully the thumbnail is actually just clickbait and this is not a blown turbo. So what we're going to do is try a different source for the breather valve to the oil catch can. Okay, so our last effort to try and get this positive crankcase pressure problem resolved is this nipple on the back of the middle iron here. So some people say this is where you should get your breather valve from. So I'm going to go ahead and try and plumb it into there. and see if we can resolve this issue, because if not, that means we've got a bad turbo in some regard. Maybe a rebuild, maybe something simple, but anyway, let's try this first and hopefully it's okay. Okay, so we got it plumbed down to that nipple on the middle iron. Currently it's just coming up here and going into the catch can. We can route that a little bit better in the future, but for now we're just testing if relieving that pressure will stop this oil from coming out. So I'm going to blot up the oil that's there now real quick. Before the whirly boy starts whirling. Okay, and then Jeff's going to try and hit it. Hopefully those spark plugs aren't dead yet.
You ready?
Yep. Alright guys, so as you saw, great news. That tapping point for the pressure relief was exactly what it needed. Still had to work a little bit of pressure out of there and a little bit of oil that had backed up. But now we rev it, keep it running, nothing's coming out of the turbo. So awesome, that's great news, because God knows we don't want a blown turbo this close to going to 7-stock. So there is one last finishing touch we want to do for the oil catch can. And it's a very simple piece. It's just a breather valve, or not a breather valve, we already have that, but a filter, so that as it starts to fill up, it doesn't spray all that junk into the engine bay. So this is the little, AutoZone special, and one of the fittings that you get with the kit is one of these nice little guys right here. They fit right together, and I'll go ahead and pop that on, show you what it looks like, and then we'll wrap this up. It's a good thing we're about to wrap it up, because someone's waiting by her food bowl and licking her lips. 5 more minutes and I'll be with you. So there you go guys, nice little filter to make sure this thing doesn't blast the engine bay with oil at high revs when it gets a little full. So fixed a couple problems. Also, you got to hear the RX-7 start, which is great. Clue also got dinner, which is great. Yeah. So thank you guys. I know it was just a quick one today, but it's an important one. And you, like I said, you got to hear the 13B fire up, and it's running well. We've been doing a lot of troubleshooting on it, and we're ready to move forward. So please stay tuned. Remember, like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next one.